Did you ask Annalise, did she need any help? She got through alcohol therapy. That don't mean nothing. I'm sending it to you. No, just ask her.
Monday, March 1st, 2021 meeting of the Dalton City Council to order. Mr. Wall will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. The agenda is before you. Any changes, additions, deletions? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goodlett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Harlan. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Next is the time we allow the public to comment on anything on the agenda or anything else in the city of Dalton on your mind. I don't have any cards. I guess nobody wants to. Minutes are before you of the mayor and council minutes of February 15th, 2021. Any changes? Your motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Harlan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Unfinished business 2. This is the second reading of Ordinance 21-01, updating Article 6, nuisances of Chapter 50 of the City Code. Terry, Cliff, who's got that? Who wants to talk about that? Cliff. Terry's got it.
Mr. Mayor, the only addition to this since first reading is paragraph 18 on about the fourth page. The Public Works Department requested that they, in order to detect potential private property issues that cause water backups, stormwater, that they have essentially the same authority that our police officers would in going on private property. And so we've added that. That's the only thing that is tweaked about what you had last meeting.
Okay. Any questions of Terry? Is there a motion on this?
Motion that we approve.
Motion by Ms. Harlan. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. New business, oath of office for our city attorney, Terry Miller. Rob?
I, Terry Miller, a citizen of the state of Georgia. I'm sorry. Let's try this. I, Terry Miller, a citizen of the state of Georgia and the recipient of public funds for services rendered as city attorney for the city of Dalton, do hereby solemnly swear and affirm that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money due to the state of Georgia or any political subdivision or authority thereof. Further, I am not the holder of any office of trust under the government of the United States or any other state or any foreign state, which by the laws of the state of Georgia I am prohibited from holding. I am otherwise qualified to hold the office to which I was appointed according to the Constitution and the laws of the state of Georgia. I will support the Constitution of the United States and of this state.
I so swear.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Rob also wanted to address the body about wearing masks.
If I could,
Yeah.
Mayor and Council, as you all know, the city has lost its first employee to COVID, through this pandemic. I had the wonderful pleasure of working with her for a year and a half. She was an absolute delight. We as public servants, you and the folks who work for the city, come in contact with a lot of people every day. And some of those folks take precautions to be safe about it and wash their hands and wear masks, and others aren't so enthusiastic about that. I would just want to take a moment to encourage everybody here and everybody at home to please wear a mask, social distance, wash your hands, do what you can in order to prevent the spread of this virus. I'll also remind everybody, Ms. Harlan's hard work, Annalee's hard work in distributing vaccines. So please, if you want to add your name to the call list, please do that. There are ways to prevent the spread, and we should be doing everything that we possibly can to do so. This was a horrible loss, not only to me as a friend and someone that I worked with, but to her family and her friends outside. So I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to say something there.
Thank you, Judge. Number 4 under new business is 2 2021 alcohol beverage applications. Ms. Harlan?
I have those pulled up. These two are both new applications, and they were both approved by the Public Safety Commission on their last meeting, which was last week. The first one, do we have any representative from PG Royal Inc. doing business as Royal Food Mart? Okay, this is a new license for selling of packaged beer and packaged wine. All right, the second, the Green Door Market LLC doing business as Green Door Market. This is a new license as well for pouring. This is for pouring beer and pouring wine. And the location is 109 West Kyler Street. The license of the first one is 705 South Thornton Avenue, Suite A. Anybody from either business here tonight? I make a motion that we approve these. And again, they have the support of the Public Safety Commission already.
Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second? Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Next, under number 5 is the renewal of the Police Department Federal Equitable Sharing Agreement. Cliff?
This agreement is something we present to you every year around this time. It's more of a housekeeping issue for us. We have to get the authorization from you as the mayor for us to continue forward with this program each year. And so we present it to you around this time and ask for your permission to continue forward with it. There's no changes to the terms of the agreement. It's just renewing it for another year.
Any questions for Cliff? Hear a motion on this?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Harlan, second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Under number 6, Professional Services Task Order 004 with Arcadis US Inc. Walnut North Drainage Basin Study. Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For your consideration this evening is Task Order 4 under the Master Services Agreement that we have on standing with Arcadis to perform a detailed study of what we call the Walnut North or Walnut Avenue North Drainage Basin. This basin basically starts at the cemetery at Emory Street and proceeds south. The study will follow that drainage basin all the way to Walnut Avenue via Ridge Street, McFarland Avenue, Franklin Street, Valley Drive, going in and out of public property and private property. As shown in the blue areas on page 32 of your packet, there are 4 properties along this watershed that have filed complaints with the city for flooding. And so the scope of work for this task order includes evaluating the existing conditions, looking at an alternative analysis. So there's 5 scenarios that have been proposed by the Arcadis team to look at once the model is developed to determine if they could be implemented. It includes things like regional detention, improving the existing pipe capacities, or creating new bypass pipe systems. And then at the end, they'll give us a report of findings. I provided some photos to you in your handouts this evening of various residential properties along that drainage basin that have been affected. The cost is not to exceed $68,625. So far, Arcadis has basically come under budget on every task order we've given them. They only bill for the amount of hours that are used. It'll be paid for from 2015 SPLOST funds earmarked for stormwater. And at the end of this, we'll have a report that will guide us in developing construction plans for whatever treatments are selected. It did receive a positive recommendation from the Public Works Committee on February 19th. Be glad to answer any questions.
How long is it going to take to study before we can start fixing?
Quickly. We're going to hopefully have most of this wrapped up within a couple months. We're trying to, get it before spring rain, summer rains, but we had to do detailed topographical surveys that took weeks. We've got those finished now, so we're ready to move forward with the study.
Okay, let's go ahead and take number 7 too, then we'll just do them at the same time.
Okay, this is task order 5. This is very similar issue, but it's related to commercial property and the right-of-way of Glenwood Avenue where we're having some flooding during heavy rain events. I've provided some photos at the very end of your packet that depict what we've got going on there at the intersection near North Glenwood Avenue and Matilda Street. This study will start up at Mitchell Street in Glenwood and go all the way south to Tyler in Glenwood. As I said, it's an existing commercial business that's routinely flooded. Again, same scope of work, existing conditions analysis, alternatives that will be evaluated in a final report. The cost of this one is not to exceed $55,830, and it'll be paid for again from the 2015 SPLOST. And it also received a positive recommendation from the Public Works Committee.
Any questions of Andrew? Your motion on this?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goodlett, second by Ms. Harding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Next is number 8, contract for services with B&J Reed Construction for the Covey Ridge Detention Pond and Stormwater Improvements Project. Is this one where we're doing the fixing instead of the studying?
This is we're doing the fixing and constructing instead of the studying. That's right. Now, this one, we've done the study. We've prepared a plan. Steve Richards helped us put a plan together, and we received 5 bids on February 16th from local contractors to construct a regional pond that we developed at Covey Ridge and downstream pipe system to Winton Drive. This, the low bid was from B&J Reed Construction LLC for $332,963. And it will be constructing a 0.9 acre detention pond that will have a 100-year design storm level of service. We'll be creating 6,800 cubic yards of new detention storage. And this will also be funded by the 2015 SPLOST account for the project and received a positive recommendation from the Public Works Committee on February 19th.
Any questions of Andrew? Your motion on this? Motion by Mr. Walzer, second. Second by Ms. Harding. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. Next is ordinance 21-03, the request of Tom Walters to annex 4.39 acres located at 1534 East Walnut Avenue into the city as general commercial C2. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a straightforward annexation request. It was 100% annexation. In other words, the petitioner requested to annex their property. And in this case, you can see it on the right-of-way of Walnut Avenue. And if we look, I believe it is to the north of the property, you can see that the city current boundaries are adjacent to the property across the Walnut Avenue. And you can see, based on this area, of course, we know the city boundaries in this area are hit or miss along Walnut Avenue. And so this would help to create a more consistent boundary for the city and sort of eliminate what is currently somewhat of a cove in the city's current corporate boundary. This would not, if it is approved, create any county islands. It's close, but it doesn't wouldn't meet the definition of a county island. And therefore, the staff recommendation was to approve the annexation based on no conflict. And because of the unified zoning ordinance, that makes it very simple. The zoning as C2 as it stands would not be changed in the annexation process. And that got a favorable recommendation to approve from the Planning Commission, no opposition, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Question of Ethan? Your motion on this? Motion by Mr. Goodlett, there's a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Harding. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. 10, Ordinance 21-04, the request of Mike Bond to rezone from heavy manufacturing M2 to rural residential R5, attractive land totaling .31 acres located at 326 Page Street, Dalton, Georgia. Ethan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In this case, we have a slightly different situation. This is a rezoning, and the current zoning was heavy manufacturing, which is interesting with this property in this particular area after doing, of course, a site visit and determining that this area is heavily residentially developed, both high density and single family. And the subject property is developed for a single family dwelling and has been for many decades, as well as most of the adjacent properties along Page Street, with the exception of just a few. And there's a manufacturing zone district in this area, which is an interesting situation, but this is a byproduct of the former zoning ordinance that the city used to have, where it was a pyramid style ordinance. And so the M2 manufacturing district used to be very attractive because of the wide variety of uses that you could have in M2, which included residential. Our unified zoning ordinance does not permit residential, and therefore people find it very difficult and essentially impossible to get a mortgage to purchase residential property. And the owner of this property, the petitioner, has invested into it to put this property on the market and wants to make sure that the zoning is conforming, and therefore requested R5 rural residential. Staff found no issues with rural residential in this area and recommended approval. And the Planning Commission also recommended an approval of this rezoning, and there was no opposition on this particular rezoning.
And looking at the map, it's going to be the Parkside Place, it's going to touch that's high density residential, and this being rural residential. What's going to be the constraints of high density? I'm just looking. Backs up into.
In rural residential, what you're permitted to do is build single-family dwellings or up to a duplex. You can have a duplex dwelling, and in certain circumstances, with lot sizes, you can get a smaller lot size with sewer accessibility in the city. In this case, with the property already being developed and already being invested to remain single-family residential, based on the size of the property, topography, and character of that area, we didn't suspect that would be a redeveloped property anytime soon, and found that R5 would probably be one of the better fits for that row of homes along Page Street in that area than per se an R7 rezoning.
This is one of the ones we had discussed a while back when I was saying it's a bunch of houses there, but it's all in this manufacturing area. So it's houses that's been there for years. And I think it was a rock quarry or something that was back there. And that's why it's zoned.
Ethan, is it related to the person trying to get a mortgage for this particular location? Is that part of the issue?
It is related to that. I believe the current owner of the property is fixing it up to sell it. Okay. And so they already know, based on their experience in building and developing and selling property, that in order to make it marketable to most individuals in that market, it is necessary to have the correct zoning so that they can get a mortgage. And we've spoke with a number of bank officials about this, and it's just a practice in the industry that the zoning needs to be in conformity with the land use being single family residential, or at least residential.
Those they could do as a duplex.
That is the highest density that could be achieved in R5. Thank you.
Any other questions, Ethan? Is there a motion on this? Motion by Mr. Goodlett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Harlan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 11, the request of Sergio Paez to rezone from transitional commercial C4 to general commercial C2, attractive land totaling .10 acres located at 624 South Hamilton Street, Dalton, Georgia. Ethan?
Thank you. The subject property in this area is just south of Emory Street along South Hamilton. I think most people are probably familiar with this area pretty well. So it's just outside of what we now consider downtown proper. And basically, when we look at this area and we look at this request as it was originally presented, is for general commercial. When we take a look at the zoning map, I think you'll see in your handouts that this is an area that is very consistently zoned C4, a very large C4 district. And C4 was intended to be a zone district that would wrap around the downtown and essentially create a transitional zone district that would be commercial in nature and allow the same types of uses that are allowed in downtown, with the difference being that the C4 zone district would require properties to have conventional setbacks and off-street parking rather than the central business district where you can build to zero lot line and park on the street. And so that's essentially the main difference between C2 and C4, where C2 is your highway commercial districts. Think of Cleveland Highway, Walnut Avenue, areas like that. Much higher, much more intensive style commercial development. The proposed use for a used car lot is not permitted in C4. And when we take a look at the future development map and the comprehensive plan to see what this area is intended to develop like in the future, it was slated to be developed as part of the downtown. In other words, for the downtown to grow to the south in this area, and is very consistent with the plan and the zoning ordinance with the current zoning district being C4. Based on that, and based on the fact that C2's nature is very much not in line with typical downtown style commercial, this would not be an implementation of the comprehensive plan. There would be a conflict with that, and there would be, of course, a sort of an entering wedge created with C2 in this area because there is no C2 around the subject property in a reasonable proximity. You have to go across the railroad tracks and quite a distance to reach another property zone C2. So the staff recommendation was not to approve this. Staff recommendation was to deny this rezoning as requested. The Planning Commission also recommended a denial of this petition. We did hear no opposition, and during the public hearing, the petitioners did affirm that they were open to the options that they had in C4. They were not solely hinged on the development of this property and the redevelopment of this property if this rezoning was not approved. They did make that, and the chairman did clarify that with him as well. So that was understood. I'm happy to answer any questions.
There a motion that we deny this rezoning request?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second? Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 12 is updated employee lease agreement with the Dalton Whitfield Solid Waste Management Authority. Greg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is simply an update with a few changes, and I won't bore you with the less substantive changes, but I would like to point out a couple of ones that are a bit different than the ones in the past. The initial term of this lease on page 1 is going to be for 2 years, and then it will automatically renew for 1-year periods after that, and not to exceed a total of 50 years combined down the road. One of the larger changes is the executive director would have the power to hire, fire, discipline employees, leased employees, in consultation with the HR department and or whomever the city deems as the appropriate person or party in those instances. And the second one is the termination language is gone from 60 days. In other words, if the city decides to terminate this agreement, it has gone from 60 days to 6 months. Ms. Jackson, Henry Tharp, the city attorney, and I went through different iterations of this, and the rationale for the 6 months being that should the city decide to terminate for whatever reason, 10 years from now, whenever it might be, that the authority would need time to transition employees, place employees, set up payroll, just all the things that the city provides for them right now. They would need to take that on and have the time to do that. So everyone that worked on this, frankly, has no problems with it, and it's presented to you for any questions or your approval, ideally.
Questions, Greg? Your motion on this? Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. 13, Resolution 21-03, approving City of Dalton Building Authority bond resolution authorizing issuance of revenue bonds not to exceed $21 million.
Mr. Mayor, The City of Dalton Building Authority convened on proper notice and met on Friday, 26th, and unanimously approved a bond resolution that would allow the city to issue up to $21 million of revenue bonds through the authority. The projects are generally in three categories: city recreation projects, that would include soccer complex, Hayden Mill Trail, Heritage Point Park upgrades, Road Park improvements, Hayden Mill Lake improvements, playground replacements. I believe aquatic center was a big part of this. Second general category was city economic development projects such as the Market Street Access Road, potentially downtown streetscape, land purchases for future related municipal projects, and then certain city stormwater projects and refunding the 2010 redevelopment program bonds that are outstanding. The financing of this for the building authority is by virtue of an intergovernmental contract with the City of Dalton pledging its full faith and credit to pay the bonds in accordance with an intergovernmental agreement with the building authority. Mr. Jim Woodward, with Blake and Helen Woodward. Jim, if you will stand up, is here. And our financial advisor, Davenport, and company, the gentlemen are here. They worked on this. Any questions? Jim, I'm going to let you add if you have any additional legal. Is that okay, Mr. Mayor?
Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Again, my name is Doug Gephardt with Davenport and Company, with my colleague Ricardo Cornejo, the city's financial advisor. Again, talked about the building authority approving the not to exceed amounts. This basically allows the parameters in which we are allowed to move forward. Just talk a little bit about the schedule and the process. In mid-March, we're going to be talking with the rating agencies to get a rating on the bonds, and then looking to sell the bonds via a competitive sale, where we put it out to bid and get the best interest rate on a given date and time. And we'll be coming back to the city council for approval at your first meeting in April. So that's sort of the process. And we did identify those 2010 bonds for refinancing for debt service savings purposes. No extension of final maturity, just purely for that. So in addition to the new money that we're going to be issuing, we did find some economies of scale to take advantage of a refinancing opportunity.
Great. And this is the first step of the process. As Terry mentioned on Friday, the building authority approved their bond resolution with, approved terms, not to exceed terms for the transaction, not to exceed $21 million, not to exceed 5% interest rate, not to exceed a final maturity. These are the broad envelopes. This allows us to go through a validation process, which is the next step of the process, which will occur in the next 3 to 4 weeks. It also allows us to go out to the market. As Doug mentioned, we'll come back to you and the building authority to approve a supplemental resolution, which basically locks in the final rates. And so there'll be one more approval for you guys to make sure you want to move forward with the transaction and agree to the final terms. So this allows us to start the process, go out to the market. And what it does, it approves, your resolution approves the form of the bond resolution that was approved by the building authority on Friday. Also approves the form of the intergovernmental contract, which is similar to contracts, transactions y'all done before, similar to the one we did in 2015 with your SPOS bond, where you're basically obligated, you're the borrower for the transaction, the building authority is your conduit, and we're basically agree to pay debt service on those bonds going forward. But again, we'll come back in April, final terms. It'll be within those parameters by quite a bit, and then that'll allow us to close sometime mid-April. And so all we need for you today is just to approve the copy of form of the city resolution as presented.
Any other questions? Your motion on this? Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second? Second by Mr. Wall. In favor, say aye. All opposed, like sign. Before we adjourn, first of all, I'd like to everyone to keep the Chris Jones family in your thoughts. It's time I was mayor before, this time, I don't think we lost very many city employees. during this whole time, whatever. It's never a good thing. And I want to emphasize too what Judge Cowan said. With the fine work that Ms. Harlan, our police department, fire department, Whitfield County Health Department's done at the Trade Center, I still think where we are is what Winston Churchill said sometime during World War II. It's not the end. It's not the beginning of the end, but hopefully it's the end of the beginning. It's still important that we continue doing the things, wearing the mask, social distancing and all that until Ms. Harlan can get the whole state vaccinated. She's working hard toward that. So I thank you for what you've done with that. And let's keep Chris Jones' family in our thoughts. Do I hear a motion we adjourn?